The green one is better, Simon.
And good afternoon, everyone. This is Nelson J. Zambrano here on Podcasters Unleashed. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a unique topic. All of our topics are unique, but this one, this is going to be even more unique than the normally than unique that we have. We're going to be talking about the traditional family. Does it still matter? And we really want to hear what the audience has to say. Okay, the traditional family. Does it still matter? Matilda's going to be reading out the comments as they come in. But before we get started with that, I'd like to turn it over to my co-host and for each of them to introduce themselves. Victor, let's kick off with you.
Yes, thank you, Nelson. Thank you very much. Good evening, because I'm in the UK right now. I'm in London. So my name is Victor. I'm the Victor Sio, the host of the Aspire Entrepreneurs podcast. And I hope you guys have a good time today. Over to you, Carla.
I'm Carla, and I'm the host of the Wonder and Wellbeing podcast, which is a podcast for parents and teachers of kids between the ages of 5 and 14 years old. And we talk about everything to do with wellbeing and education. Over to you, Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon, and I'm the host of Taxi Chronicles. I interview people, unsuspecting guests, but they do know they're being interviewed as they get in the taxis. I've got a wide range, over 420 different episodes of stories of what's going on in people's lives. So if you feel like a quick, short interview, if you feel like a brief story, 5 to 15 minutes long, by all means, tune into Taxi Chronicles. Over to you, Matilda.
Hello, everyone. This is Matilda, host of Coffee with Matilda, A Journey to Self. And my podcast is about finding yourself, loving yourself, and discovering life as you go along. And over to you, Kaola.
Thank you, Matilda. So I'm joining from Paris during the lockdown, the end of the lockdown. So I'm the host of the podcast Women with Stories, where I share real stories from real women across the world, and tune in for new episodes. Over to you, Nelson.
Okay, and I'm Nelson J. Zambrano. I am the host of Investing in America, where we talk about how to invest in the U.S. and U.S. real estate, and also have very good interviews with some outstanding entrepreneurs. We publish once a week. We're on Spotify and iTunes. Every Tuesday, you can expect a new episode to come out. All right, let's jump into it. First of all, a couple of disclaimers, okay? We are not the family marriage counselors or anything of that nature. Okay, this is our conversation, and we want people to join in the discussion. We're going to talk about the traditional family. Does it still matter? We're going to kind of bounce off of some things in a tangent, such as gay marriage, but we don't consider ourselves an expert in that. So guess what? We're not going to be touching on that. But before we start off, we have to get some definitions in place, such as what is single parenting, what's co-parenting, what's a mixed family. So, Carla and Kaola, I'm going to turn it over to the both of you for some definitions in that area. Actually, single parenting, co-parenting, I think that's you, Kaola, and then the mixed family, if there's any difference of anything, Carla, you can take that. Over to you.
All right. So when we're talking about co-parenting, for example, we are talking about parents that are separated. They no longer live in the same household, but they've chosen to have an arrangement to parent their children together, whether that's done through the procedure when the children go back and forth between the two houses. It also includes things like when they telephone each other to come up with a plan about how they're going to discipline the child. Basically, both parents still having a full role, but doing so from this separate living accommodation. Also, what was the other definition, Nelson?
We were looking at if there's any difference between a mixed family and a blended family.
No, a blended family is where you have two households again, but this time you're talking about what we would have called in the past step parents. So a mother, for example, that has children already from a previous relationship, combining her household with a father who has children from his previous relationship. That's what we're talking about when we say blended families, also known as step families or step parenting.
Or a mixed family too. Does that also fall into that?
Yeah, sometimes people might say a mixed family, but I think blended is more commonly used. But yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's good to always kind of get those definitions out of the way. So let me ask you, I mean, for Carl and Simon, both of you guys have been in relationships. You have kids. What would you say? And by the way, this is an open question, folks. Otherwise, can jump in. The audience, we definitely want to hear what you have to say. What would you say are the pressures facing a traditional family? Again, what would you say are the pressures facing a traditional family? And why the decline? I'll throw that one in there too.
I'd say the main pressure, and some people would debate with me about this, is the government, because the government taxes people so much that both parents need to go to work and work really long hours. And if your two parents are going to be leaving the house at 7 a.m, even before most children have got up and got out of bed, then who's actually doing the parenting? You have to pay somebody else to do the parenting. Then you've got to work harder. Then you might need to put in more hours. You're going to get back later from work and all these other things. So I think the main pressure where the government should be actually supporting people who have families and who have children should be, tax discounts, less pressure for people with families, so you can actually spend time growing up your children with the manners, the respect, and the self-discipline that they require, so they're less likely to get into trouble and be a cost on the state. Over to you, Carla.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about the external pressures, but I think there are also internal pressures coming from within the individual. I think that some people find it really difficult, maybe because of the pressures that they face from outside, to maintain relationships. And you need a strong relationship between the mother and father to make a traditional family, because that's what a traditional family is all about. It's about a mother and father forming this strong unit that then they raise children. But if there are pressures within the person, if the person doesn't have a strong value system, or their value system has been compromised for whatever reason, things like mental health issues, and issues within the relationship between the two people can also be pressures on the traditional family. They're not always external pressures.
Well, Carla, you said a mouthful right there. The key word is compromised, right? That internal pressure. And then going back to Simon. Simon, so let me ask you, if taxes are an issue, which they can be, those taxes are, and again, to the listeners, we're from all over the world. So we've got Brits here, people from Britain, people in France, Nigeria, the United States, or all across the board. So Simon, a thought, if taxes are a big issue, particularly, let's say in the UK, those taxes also pay for healthcare. If parents have to pay for healthcare outside of the taxes, that's an issue as well, right? Because a lot of those taxes pay for social services. Again, healthcare. Brits are very proud about their free healthcare, which is really taxes. So that's something to think about. There's certain things that need to get paid of one way or another.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's the government's always saying they need more money for this or that. At the end of the day, not to go deep into our politics, they gave themselves a £10,000 pay rise just for working from home, which confuses the hell out of me. They also gave themselves another £3,500. There's more than enough tax money. It's just it's dependent on how they choose to spend it. And healthcare, common sense. If they invest in the right things, then we have less social issues, and there's less need for having to cost things that are costly. Healthcare is something that should be open to all, regardless of where you come from and all the rest of it, because it keeps the economy going, because people in work keep the economy strong. And there's no point doing things that's going to cause social issues for 10 years down the line. We're going to get a mass influx, whether it's knife crime, whether it's juvenile delinquencies in general. But I do understand your point, Nelson.
Right. So just remember, everything we just mentioned right there, costs money and someone's got to pay for it. So hence those taxes. And what Carla was talking about was this key thing. People get, they're compromised. They have a difficult time under internal external pressures being able to maintain something, maintain a family. Let me ask you, how and why would you say, and this is an open question to the group, Carla, Simon, Matilda, why and how would you say the decline has happened? What has caused, and Carla touched upon it, when people become compromised? Over to you guys. It's an open question, and the audience as well. Oh, by the way, did we have a question come in?
Yeah, we've got some comments here.
A comment.
Matilda? Go ahead.
Very good. Well, we have a comment from Sasha Serge Pakayan. He's saying only wealthy people could keep nowadays a traditional family in modern countries. It's really expensive. I think we all agree in this. And the objective is also to destroy the old traditional structure to rebuild a new world. Interesting. So to encourage traditional families is definitely not the objective.
Okay, and that's a comment coming from Sasha Church Bakarian. We're going to get to that in a moment. But let me ask you all, why and how has the decline happened? What has caused this decline to happen?
Well, I think Nelson, is that both men and women want to first establish themselves first and put themselves in the labor market before finding a family. And the age of mothers now has risen, and a lot of women becoming childless, and they wanted to have children at 30 or 35 or 40, and the fertility rate among the Western countries have declined dramatically over the past few decades. As we can see, in 1970, it was 2.7 children per woman. Now it's 1.7. So it has declined through the previous decades. So I think it's the decline has happened because now a lot of men and women are competing in the labor force, and this is the first reason for me. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, if I would say something, I would say it has to do with one. You guys have mentioned the economics, which I would tie that into what the comment from Sasha, but it has to do with not urbanization, but it has to do with migration in my own part. Because when families migrate, they kind of leave some part of their traditional families behind. So in my background, a traditional family has to do with the father, the mother, the kids, and the grandparents, including uncles and aunties.
Mm-hmm.
So it's huge. So it's kind of a village. If I'll use that word, that is a traditional family.
Victor, you're talking 1 second about the support system here?
No, I'm not talking about support system. So I'm just trying to tie in where urbanization and migration comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because most families that live in the rural areas, they live in this kind of traditional family. So when they move due to urbanization or migration, they become this core nuclear family where it's just 4 of them or 5 of them, depending on how many kids that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. Now, these traditional families now, they've been like broken down. So whereby you see, like what Sasha said, that it is very expensive in the modern economy or in the modern countries for you to maintain a traditional family, because you start shipping out your grandmom or you start shipping out granddad to a home.
Mm-hmm.
So the economics does not support traditional families like that. The incentives is not there for a traditional family to to succeed in the Western world.
So,
That's
Victor,
what
you're saying is the support system of the grandmother, the aunt, the uncle. That's what I meant. That family support system.
No. That is a traditional family.
Ah, okay,
It
okay.
includes grandma, includes granddad, includes the in-laws, includes uncles. So that is the traditional family. So it's not a nuclear family of just me, my wife, and kids.
Okay, so just right quick for the audience, we have a little bit of an expanded definition right there. Not just mom, dad, kids. It's mom, dad, mother-in-law, father-in-law, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Okay, so that's what Victor's talking about from Nigeria. All right, Matilda, over to you.
Actually, what the Victor is saying is very true in Armenian culture, in, for example, Iranian culture as well. So the whole family is kind of helping you to raise that child. Grandparents are one of the main babysitters of the family. So I think it's very important to realize the structure of family is changing. So that's why we have this kind of problems. When we have people want to live alone and have a modern life and experience things, saying, oh, the tradition um, keeps them kind of locked down. When what we see in a lot of young people, that's why a lot of changes are happening. That's what's happening in, for example, Armenian culture. For them to look cool or modern, they're like, oh, we don't like this, we don't want to have children, we don't want to, we would like to look like a Western world. So maybe how we market in the world about families and about tradition is a problem, because nowadays a mom that stays with the kids at home and doesn't give a babysitter and doesn't go to work, it's not cool, and society looks down on that mother, saying, oh, you're not working, you're not productive in the society. Maybe we have to look at that, like why we need women, and obviously men as well, but why we need women to work constantly and to prove they are uh, worthy of the society, or the worthy of the attention of the society.
So, and Matilda, thank you very much for that, Victor.
Nancy,
Okay, Victor,
Nancy,
go for it.
in some cultures in Nigeria, let me say mostly the southern part, it's a shame for a man not to look after his wife. That is not, because the wife is like the homemaker, so she has great responsibility. So it's a shame for a man not to look after his wife. Everything he works for is because of his wife. So, but in the modern society where we live now, if you're not working as a woman, if you want to want to stay at home, it's kind of something you look down upon, which is what Matilda said, and she's right. That's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and by the way, Matilda and Victor, thank you very much for that. What Matilda was saying was kind of also back to what Simon was saying about the external pressure of work, got to pay for taxes, right? And then also what Carla was saying, which is the internal, oh, I'm facing external disapproval, so let me go outside because that's peer pressure. So right there. Let me ask you guys, what's the impact on children? What's the impact on children? And I'm going to put this one over to Simon, Carla, and Victor. You guys have kids. The impact on children.
I would say about 8 or 10 years ago, we had 4 days of rioting in the country. And it was all youth. They're just going around burning down shops and stealing trainers and lottery tickets and things like that. Matilda finds it very amusing. And a lot of people said, where's the parents? Where are the parents? Oh, Grandma's there. Hi, Grandma. The parents.
We have an example of what Victor was talking about. Grandma is supporting. We have a real time. This is a Podcasters Unleashed
94.
first.
How old is she? 94, Matilda. 94? Yeah,
okay.
something like that.
All right.
Okay.
We give you actual demonstrations of what we talk about. Simon, back to you.
Okay. So what happened? Obviously, people said, where are the parents? But the parents are at work. They don't know what's going on with the kids because they're having to work. So these are big repercussions of what happens. If you can't look after your kids, and it's not just children under 10, it's teenagers. Teenagers need guiding. even up into their late teens, early 20s, because as we know, the decision-making part of the brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25. So they make stupid decisions, and they need that guidance from both parents. They need that involvement from both parents. And these are the sad repercussions. And you get irrational things. You get knife crime. You get petty theft. You got young girls whoring themselves to get nice clothes and shopping Harrods and, you know, making themselves vulnerable to predators and all these other things that go on. Kids playing in the street, and it's just basically haywire. Carla?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that point that Simon says about children not being able to make decisions, I think we've forgotten about the fact that children need guidance, and the guidance is ideally supposed to be from their parents. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts, is that children are no longer guided by their parents. They're guided by someone else or something else. And quite often it's media. Media is guiding children. Media is raising children. And it's a battle between media and schools and other external forces to give children their value system and to give them their morals and their guidelines rather than the parents. And I think that that's a big problem. It's a big problem. And does that mean that all parents give their children proper guidance? No, of course not. But to leave it to someone else is a big risk. And I think one of the other impacts that we're seeing a lot on children is the impact on their mental health. We hear a lot of stuff now about children having serious mental health issues and children being suicidal, children suffering at a younger and younger age with things like depression and things like that. And I think that the breakdown of the family has a lot to do with that. I think that children need, not only do they need guidance and a strong value system, but they also need love. Kids, when you're there for them every day, when somebody is there to follow through on things and to give them rules and to speak to them, find out how their day went, talk to them about the fights that they're having or the issues that they're having internally and externally, that gives them a sense of safety and security. It makes them feel loved. It makes them feel that they count in the world. And we've heard many times people's children grow up and say to their parents who say, I worked all those hours to look after you, will turn around and say, well, I would have rather you just be there for me. So I think that impact on their mental health and their emotional well-being is also quite significant when there's no family there.
And Carla and Victor, thank you. Excuse me, Carla and Simon, thank you very much for that. We're going to come back to what you just said, Carla, about the media and values and what they're going to. But we've got some comments in. Matilda?
Yes, we have actually so many comments. Let's go with Anders Cardell. History shows that women that stay home is trapped in lack of option. I think so, yes. We have comment again from Sasha Pakayan, who's our active listener again. Freedom is not only the right to have the same rights to be exploited in a consumerist system. Traditional system respected also the woman. It's just a question of limits and boundaries. Freedom definition is not the absence of rules, but the choice of your own limits. A culture is about that, and education could help people to realize that freedom means and not to do their own choices. Interesting. We have a comment again from Anders Cardell. Generally, it's us men that are useless. I like that. And I like you, Anders. You very good comment. Women almost never leave their children, again from Anders Cardell. Oh, and again from Anders Cardell. I've been working with youth at risk and criminal youth around the world. Same story everywhere.
Wow, Matilda, thank you very much for reading that out. From Sasha, Serge, Bakari, and Anders Cardell, thank you very much for your comments. Could we get the first comment that Anders put up, please? What was the first one again? And I'll ask the question to the audience and for Anders. Matilda, could you read that out again, please?
History shows that women that stay home is trapped in lack of options.
Okay, so I'll ask that question out to the audience. And Anders, if you want to elaborate on that, that'd be great. And what Sasha said is probably a whole podcast episode by itself. So do you guys feel that the feminist movement using what Anders just wrote. History shows that women that stay at home are trapped because of lack of options. Do you feel that has been a cause for a breakdown in the traditional family? We kind of talked around it before. Women got to go out to work. Both parents got to go out to work. Do you guys feel that? And you know what? I'm a let Kaola start off with that, and then we'll bounce it around.
Thanks, Nelson. Actually, the feminist movement has changed a lot of women's perspective and thinking about their life and their values. And a lot of women were trapped in that definition of feminist and what is feminist means. And the problem is, although a lot of feminists claim to promote equality, many radical activists, they push anti-marriage, anti-children, self-indulgent narrative to discourage women from getting married and having kids. And what I see now, when I watch a lot of things on media or on Instagram, they also promote and teach women selfishness. And they don't teach women about marriage and how to be selflessness. And that is a really big problem in young women right now who follow women in the media. And they see that, yeah, you don't need a man, go and have your dream job. And they push all the younger women to not have a partner or just to live their life, which is very depressing to promote the feminism in such a way. And I mean, the feminists, they always teach women how to put their self first, while marriage is also a part of a teamwork. So I think a lot of women, they get trapped with these concepts about feminists and feminism, and they don't really understand what's the agenda of these feminist radical activist women. So there really need to be a clear definition and not put women in this image that they can have it all. And they need women they have their limitation and they need to know it.
Okay, and Kaola, thank you. Matilda, over to you. And then Simon.
I'm not for feminism or against feminism, but I just want to give a perspective here, and maybe we can look at it as well. Throughout history, when women didn't have the choice to go to work, they stayed in a relationship, in abusive relationships, because the husband were the only person bringing money in, and they couldn't support their children if they leave the house. At the moment, what I like about the feminism, and I think it was an important movement. Now we need feminism point 2 or point 3. I'm not saying the same feminism works right now because society is evolved. But how can we explain that before, a lot of women couldn't even understand their own talents because they didn't have the right to work? When you have the right to work and you go to work, you experience things and you realize, oh my God, maybe I can be a very good executive. I have the talent in, I don't know, being a designer or a painter or a poet. But at the same time, I strongly believe that mothers have a very, very important role in raising kids. At the same time, it would be a waste of humanity, waste of talent, waste of potential if we keep telling women that you have to stay home. And because you brought these kids to the world, you have to stay home and not pursue your potentials.
Okay.
Just to jump in there.
Go for it, Simon. Mm-hmm.
I think the staying home thing, the way it's just been put across, I have female family members, and I've come from a large family, and I can only talk about my personal experience of the people I come across. But many of them just say, listen, they're happy to stay at home and raise children, because children is why you go to work. You go to work to look after, to be able to finance your children and do what you need to do. And there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. It's better off being a housewife raising children for a period of time. Remember, your children aren't going to stay at home for life. So if you live to 80, you may have children at home with you for 10 years or 15 years. That shouldn't be a problem to anybody, because your children is why you do anything in life, why you get up in the morning. So I think I understand what Carl Howell is saying, where she's saying you really got to look at what values you have as an individual or as a relationship with your partner in whole. Because why would you want to drop your kids and run off to work? Because your kids are a priority. Do you understand? And as when I've been an entrepreneur and I've been able to pick up my son from school when his mum dropped him off to school, that was great. That was great. And I'm trying to get back to that kind of thing eventually, you know. So I don't see what the issue is. I really don't see what the issue is. And I don't think I've traveled the world and I haven't heard all women. It's only a minority of Western women who've got the technology and the mic who say they have to go to work all the time. And even in England, if you go to a school, stand outside a school, 90% of women who drop their kids to school, people who drop their school, women. But anyway, over to you, Nelson.
Yeah,
Okay,
Nelson.
and about
Okay.
one second, we just got a comment that came in. Matilda, over to you with that beautiful voice.
And we have from Anders Cardell. I don't agree. I haven't heard feminists in Sweden pushing a don't marry agenda, etc. And he's again asking, what limitation? Then we have from Sasha Serge Bakarian. In fact, it's just a modern perception. You can have a traditional culture and have an evolution. My family is traditional in large sense, but nowadays all women are working. Nice. And he's commenting again, be careful with ethnocentrism. Don't judge another culture with your own perspective. A lot of women are happy to work for their family, and it needs to be a choice.
So,
And we have, sorry, Victor, we have another comment from Anders Cardell. It's nothing wrong with being a housewife, but can we create a system where women can educate themselves meanwhile, so they're not stuck in some shitty relationship because they lack options?
Okay, Matilda, thank you very much for reading that. Just a quick counterpoint right there. Remember, the men are also stuck in that relationship as well, okay? So I'm not going to repeat that word crappy, but if the woman thinks she's in a crappy one, high probability the man thinks he's in a crappy one too, okay? All righty, Victor, before we go to you, we'll go to Carla.
Yeah, there was 2 points I wanted to bring up on the issue of feminism. Feminism is all about advocating for the rights of women based on the concept of equality between the genders. The biggest problem with feminism when you're talking about families is who advocates for the rights of children. While everybody's fighting for the rights of women, who advocates for children? Who fights for their right to have a family? Who fights for their right to have both families, both parents engaged in their life, not just physically engaged as in providing a roof over their head, which is what the whole grind for work to provide for your children is all about. It's all about the concept that all that children need is financial provisions, but they don't. They need a lot more than that. And when both parents are flat out working to keep a roof over their head and provide them with material things, they lose quite often the things that really matter to children, which is the social and emotional support. And that has a significant impact. And that's one of the flaws of feminism. They quite often overlook the rights of the child by advocating for women's rights, over advocating for women's rights. And the second thing is, and I think Anders has brought this up in his last comment, it's not about mums and dads not working. It's about working not being the first priority when you have children. Yes, you have to provide for them. You have to keep a roof over their head and you have to not live in abject poverty, because that also affects children significantly. And it exposes them to a whole host of socio-economic problems if they are living in poverty. But when your work comes before the emotional support for the children, before listening to them, before providing them with proper guidance, before making sure that they're not out in the street running amok. And as also mentioned about the social issues, and I think Simon talked about here in the UK, we have a massive issue with knife crime. And I haven't gone and interviewed a lot of those kids who are having issues with knife crime, but I bet if you ask them, their parents are not at home. Because if my son was out there, I would know that he was out there, because I make sure that my first priority is my son, whether I'm working or not working. So I don't think it's just about jobs, it's about the order of your priorities in a family.
Just to add in that about the knife crime, when my son was 14, I think 14 or 13, one of his like close friends killed somebody in school. Well, there's outside school. And I asked I told my son, this is why I don't let you play out all the time with certain company and what have you. And I pointed out to him, where is your friend's dad? He's in jail. Okay, there's about 16 other boys who involved in killing this other boy. Where are their dads? They're all in jail or they're not around. I said, and where am I? I'm here. So there's a very important part of playing that time, value time with your children. And regardless, man or woman, you can't turn around and tell the judge or someone, well, I was at work, I had to do this because I have a right to. It don't make sense. You fix your household first, family first. Sorry, Victor, over to you.
Yeah, mine has to do with I won't touch on the feminists because I know it has been dealt with, but I'll just tie it up to the perceived lack of options that Anders mentioned. I don't think women that choose to stay at home. In short, wait a minute, let's just back up a bit. You see, the concept of working, what is the concept of working? One is to contribute to the society, and number two is to provide for your family as well, to support your family. So the man wants to contribute to his family, the woman wants to contribute to his family. What other way is better to contribute to the society than looking after the next generation, making sure that they're okay, they are up, mentally they are sound, academically they are sound, they are good citizens who can nurture them better than the mother. So the term lack of option is kind of I won't say it's very limiting to say women who choose to stay at home, who stays at home, lacks option. If history says that, I think that history is very lopsided and it's not correct. That history needs to be written again, because women who choose to stay at home to look after their children do great jobs than women who choose to go out and go out to work just to provide financially for their family. They do a better job contributing to the society. They do a better job working at home, staying at home, looking. Even though I know you can't pay for those kind of jobs. You can't pay women for the job that they do at home. But the payment is being seen in growing up. See, having a better society has to do with women who stay at home. So I wouldn't say women who stay at home lack anything. No, they don't lack options, because if they choose to work, they can work. My mom has a shop. She can stay at home when she wants to. She doesn't feel deprived. Sorry, she doesn't feel deprived because she chooses to stay at home. She goes to her shop and comes back home. We go to the shop sometimes. So there's no, I just find that too one-sided to just say that women who choose to stay at home lack options. No, they don't lack options. They choose to.
So, and Victor, and thank you for that. We're going to come back to that in the next question after next. Matilda, please.
Well, we have a couple of comments to read. Anders Cardell is saying, ha, Sasha, Getty's worried for revolution. Anders Cardell is saying again, the extreme hunt for money is something that we as grown-up choose. And Sasha Serge Pagarian is saying, relation in traditional family are a work of compromise and concessions, Women have pressure, but men also have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. The pressure is not only for women. Simon, bravo, from Anders Cardell. Also, Anders Cardell is saying it's more, it's freedom, it's a sense of autonomy, it's empowering.
Okay. And kind of a big thing here. We've talked around it. We've talked a lot about the word right, right to this, right to this, right to this. But I think it was only Carla that kind of hit it on, and Victor, where you mentioned the word responsibilities. Okay. Everybody wants to talk about their rights. Very few people want to talk about their responsibilities. Matilda, and I think Kaola, you've got something in there to say too.
I mean, we're constantly talking about women, and women are choosing to work, yada, 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 and we're criticizing women in this scenario. I'm also want to criticize men as well. Maybe if we raise men that have more they will take more responsibility. They will understand that taking care of a family, it's an honor, that being a man is not just being having private parts of a man. It's integrity, it's your words, is your honor, how you think of a woman, how you take care of a woman, how you take care of your family. It's a big presentation of who you are. I think that can be, I mean, I can ask a lot of women if they have a man that take cares of them and takes care of their needs and gives that freedom and comfort and treats the woman nicely. I'm sure a lot of women won't work. Some women choose working because if they don't work, the man treats them less. Because when a man knows this woman can leave the house anytime he treats her bad, she has a job and she has an option of continue living a good life, he will treat her more carefully. But if a man knows that this woman doesn't have an option and she has a child, and if I don't provide, this woman, if she leaves, this woman cannot have a comfortable life. That's why this woman stays in the house, and I can treat her. I can misuse my power a certain way. Then this woman has a bad situation. But maybe we need to teach our woman as well how to be a woman, how to be more feminine, how to have a more feminine power within. And that's not dressing up like Kardashian. Again, I'm coming back to that thing. And teach our men that being honorable and respecting women and respecting the family union is so important, and how you treat that woman, how if the wife next to you is happy, your life is happy as well. So maybe we will have a different society.
We'll have a society, and thank you, Matilda, society without the Kardashians. Okay, so Matilda, what makes a lot of sense. Just something to think about here, something to think about. If it's about power, remember, and I'm going to use that word that Anders used. If a woman's in a shitty relationship, surprise, surprise, the man is also in a shitty relationship. So if she can't leave, he can't leave. It's kind of bad for everybody, to include the kids, all right? So that may be some kind of a nice stereotype of the woman's in a bad relationship, she can't leave. So is the guy, right? Okay, Matilda, you've got some comments that came in. Please read those out.
Well, Sasha says Pakaran is very active today. All the big moves in history are issued from big discoveries in science. What is feminism without medical evolution in the 19th century? Nothing. There is a determinism in all paths. Self-conviction is nothing without a real reason behind. And again from Sasha Bakarian, without energy, no economy and no population increase. Without medical evolution, no feminism. Interesting point.
Okay, thank you, Matilda. I think we had something from Kaola. Kaola, was that
Yeah, I want to go back to what Carla and everybody said about children, because children require a lot of effort, a lot of work. It's a huge responsibility for parents. And even if the parents, they have issues or they have a shitty relationship, they need to work it out for the sake of the children, and not just think about me, or I'm not feeling well enough in this relationship. Because when there is children, they need to work it out. They need to be there and have like a teamwork with it, because it's very, very devastating for children to live in a single parenting structure, which is a lot of social scientists, they agree that it's a very destructive structure to the society for this kind of children, that they don't have support in the long term for both parents. And I do agree that the traditional family remains the gold standards, and the men and women do need each other. And contrary to any feminist and theories, I think marriage is a key pillar of stability for both sexes, and especially for children. This is an important point, especially for children. Go back to
Okay.
you.
Carla, thank you very much for that. And you said the gold standard. So, having said that it's a gold standard, let's talk about, we talked a little bit about why kind of government works against it. Simon said it was because of taxes. What government, and by the way, some people said, we're from all over the world, so we're going to have different viewpoints, right? So when we say government, it's whatever country we're coming from, right? Our viewpoint from where we're at. What government policies, I'm going to ask, have contributed to the decline of families? Simon said taxes. That's one. What other policies from wherever you're from? That question is also for the audience as well. What government policies have contributed to the decline of family?
You used to get lower taxes if you were in a family, and more support, which makes sense. But now, more or less, that's all gone now. So that's back to the taxes thing. That's a big contributor to things.
And we may ask some specific taxes. Simon, thank you very much for that. The other folks, what government policies have contributed to the decline of the traditional family?
Yeah, I would say nothing. I would say lack of some basic infrastructure is causing urbanization, is causing families to break down. Lack of urbanization. Okay, let me in Nigeria, to be precise. So you see young families, young couples, they just got married, but they need work. They need better school. So they leave the rural areas to go to the urban areas to work. So if there were those basic infrastructure in the rural areas, they will be able to, like, the family unit will still stand there. That's what I wanted to add.
Okay. So that's one thing. Anyone else before Matilda reads off that comment? Yeah, Matilda, we've got a comment too. So the comment and then the.
Yeah, in Sweden we have 400 days each parental leave, 85% of your original salary. I think that's very interesting. Something that US needs to look upon. Thank you, Anders Cardell.
Except maybe if you own that company, then you're not too happy because you've got to pay someone while they're not there. Okay.
And then Anders Cardell is saying taxes is good because it makes it possible for people, no matter rich or poor, to be on a parental leave. And then we have Sasha Pakarian is saying, in Sweden, you have a lot of energy and an excellent economy based on it. So yes, you can be large. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Carla. All right. Thank you, Sasha Serge. Carla.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I don't know if this is classed as a government policy, but I was thinking about the way that standards of living or expectations for what constitutes a good standard of living have risen over the years, just since I was a child, and the expectations that people have. And Anders touched on this earlier, where he said about the extreme chase of money being a choice. And I think that's really true. I think that aggressive marketing campaigns, that governments allow these marketing campaigns that promote these extremely high lifestyles. And I know, Matilda, I'm going to join you on the Kardashian thing now. Showing the lifestyles of celebrities continually to normal people and having you aspire to that standard of living is really dangerous, because what you get is you get this trend of people who can meet their everyday needs, have a home for their children to grow up in, are able to meet their living costs comfortably and still have a little bit of money to maybe treat the kids or treat themselves, but are not satisfied with that because it's no longer enough, because now you need to have a mansion, now you need to be able to get surgery to look your best even though you've had children, and now you need to have all designer clothes and you need to put your children in designer clothes and all that kind of stuff. I think governments they are not responsible for that, but they promote that and they encourage it. I don't know if that's because it feeds the economy. More people are out there working and chasing this millionaire lifestyle, the better for the governments. But actually that is also detrimental, because once your basic needs are met, you're not going to become any happier by chasing any more money. And you're losing that family structure. You're losing that time that you would spend with the children while you're chasing handbags and surgery and nonsense that you actually don't need. And I think that's quite dangerous as well. And governments, if they're going to interfere in people's lives like they do here in the UK, they interfere a lot in people's lives. They should interfere on that.
Go for it, Matilda, and then I got something to come back here. But Matilda, just hold that thought, and we got a comment to read. Carla, we may be talking a difference here between consumerism, and a desire to be productive. It's easy to collapse those two and collapse them. One is consumerism, Kardashian, and the other one is a person just likes to work and be productive. So I think that's maybe a important distinction to make.
But also definition of success. If you define success for you and your family on economics and on how fancy your house is and how your kids look, rather than how polite they are and how well your family is running, then that's the problem.
So, yeah, it's interesting what you say there, Carla, because there was a documentary on China, and what they said, China started to show a show like the Kardashians, because China's got more multimillionaires than any other country on the planet right now, and China's banned that channel, that show, because it's saying what it was doing, it was evoking people to behave in a way that wasn't unified, where everybody knows China's always about the bigger picture of society in general, but those rich kids who were very misbehaved and showing off through their wealth, it wasn't helping the poor people, the everyday people of the country. So they said, no, you're not showing that show anymore. And apart from a public apology from the wealthy, things went back to normal. Anyway, I think we got some more.
Okay, so I think it's, and thank you for that, Simon. Matilda, over to you, and if you could read out these comments, and then I think you have something to share.
Yes, I wanted to share first that, social media has a lot of effect on people, what Carla was saying, how, the social media is not helping any family, because these children, when they're even 12, 13, I think they have maybe younger. I don't know. I don't have a child, so I don't know what age they start Instagram. So, they check and they want things. They want to have bling bling stuff. And that's where the problem starts. Or even like women, they constantly look at these models and they're like, oh, the bodies should be like this, or the society actually markets women's body and what sexiness is in a different way. So that's why you constantly have to work to have the money to go to do surgeries or to do, I don't know, you do your lips or you do your other things. So it's problematic.
Okay, so I think what everybody's here is saying is that there's external pressure, right? But what about the individual responsibility, the individual ethic to say, and somebody said this, he said, it's important to us to stand guard at the entrance to our brain, at the entrance to your brain, you got to stand guard. So that's an individual responsibility. So, and that's something, right? We've got the external pressure, but then if we don't have a strong internal pressure,
usually... you're quoting the Bible now.
Well, somebody told me they call it the good book for a reason, right? So,
Yeah.
we have external, internal pressure. So you got to have some kind of a compass to guide you. Um, Kaola, you are a person that don't. Your views on all of this.
Yes, Nelson. Actually, I will talk by experience and what I've heard from women, especially in France. And what has happened is that a lot of men became a little bit feminist, and they are rooting for this feminist and woman needs to work. And then a lot of women taking the housework and taking a lot of things that is overwhelming to her. And she didn't say, they don't say anything in the beginning, and then they explode in front of their partner because they can't take it anymore. All that pressure that women have it all. Women needs to work and to provide for their children and to pay taxes and to go after this and that. So I do think that the family structure need to be reviewed over and over again, and the values need to be really discussed before getting in a relationship with someone. And yeah, that's what I'm having and seeing in this world right now. Back to you, Nelson.
Okay, Kaola,
Uh,
thank you. We've got
we
some
have a lot
comments,
of
Matilda.
comments. Yes. We have Anders Cardell. Bravo, Anders. You're commenting and you're making our show more active. I like that. It's not the company that pays, it's pay through taxes. I think it's the comments that Serge gave it for Sweden. Also, Anders Cardell is saying it's time that people reject that stupid Kardashian train. Oh my God, thank you very much for being on my team. And he's saying, Anders Cardell is saying, start promote other values. Very true. And he's saying, silly privileged people like Hollywood wives arguing about nothing while people have real challenges is messed up. Yes.
Okay, Matilda, thank you. Arden, Anders Cardell, thank you. All right, open-ended question right here. What policies, government or otherwise, will help promote traditional families? Question also for the audience as well. I'll read it out again. What policies have helped to promote or bring about traditional families for the audience and for my co-host? Go for it, Matilda.
I think maternity leave is one of the main and important one, and I think Anders Cardell mentioned it as well. And I have some friends in Sweden. They always talk about even having lots of people even like to have a lot of children because for like 5-6 years they're not working. Everything back to back. They have children back to back, and it's a convenient situation. I mean, I don't think Sweden as a culture is a very traditional. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I think it's a very convenient way of, it's very convenient for mothers, especially, to have the maternity leave for a long time. Here in America, it's like 12 weeks. Some places is 12 weeks. And what do you have to do?
Mhm.
I mean, the poor mom needs to leave that baby, like a very, very tiny baby, to someone else if the grandparents are not around. I think it causes a lot of emotional damage to the mother and to the child as well. A lot of anxiety comes to newly mothers because of this situation. So for me, if I'm looking at it, will be the maternity leave. They have to fix that maternity leave situation.
Okay, Matilda, thank you for that. And by the way, for each person, is because we're running short on time here, let's keep it nice, tight, and concise. Simon?
Well, I'll try and keep this really brief. What in relation to what Matilda said, Anders actually told me a story one time, but it came down to somewhere in Eastern Europe where after the Yugoslavian war, and the kids were dying in an orphanage, and when they found out why, the babies who weren't being hugged and loved, died because there's some psychological, spiritual thing that goes on with hugging children. And in relation to that, I'm doing my Taxis Chronicles interview. There's lots of nannies. And one thing they all agree with, they don't like career mums. They don't like career mums. And also the nursery nurse women is because how can you have a baby and just leave them? Just leave them with strangers that you're paying just so you can go and pursue your career. And when they call them back and say, your child's sick today, you need to come back, they never want to come. They say, we're coming out early, and they usually come late. And that you can listen to any of my Taxi Chronicles, not just pumping my episodes, but that is a common trend. So it's not cool in their eyes to be a career mum who leaves your kids at the prime time of their life.
Actually, I think it's what you just said, Simon, the other way around. It's not cool to not be a career mom. I think what you were trying to say, cool not to be one.
No, I'm not saying that, Nelson. I'm saying it's not cool to be a career mum and then go and leave your child at the prime time of the start of its life. That's what I'm saying. Very clear.
Okay.
And cut.
Okay,
And that's
I thought you were
what they
saying
say when we listen to the episodes.
right. I thought you were saying from their point of view. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Carla?
from their point of view, but I'd agree with them as well.
Yeah, this is in answer to your question about what government policies support families. I think one thing I realize about the UK is the UK has a social welfare system. And I know a lot of people slag it off around the world because they say it leads to laziness and things like that. But it actually can be beneficial to certain people at certain times in life. And I'm not advocating for people to live their lives on social welfare and not work. But there are some circumstances where parents, whether that be single parents or even traditional families who have fallen into financial problems, like in the last year, for example, Corona has affected a lot of people. It's affected single parents, and it's also affected couples who are raising a family in the traditional way, where maybe one or both have been furloughed or lost their jobs. And the social welfare system is able to help people who are in those transitions, which is what it was designed for. It was designed for those who are destitute financially, single parents, old people who can't work and all of that. But also for families who had been working, but now had hit onto a problem, whether it's illness or a social problem, that meant that they can't work for a time. And it gives them some money to be able to keep a roof over their head while they figure the problem out, whether that's to find a new job, to change careers, to go and retrain. It gives them a kind of like a buffer so that they can figure things out and still take care of their children or be there for their children to guide them and look after them and hug them and all of those things. So I think that that's something that governments should have more of globally, more financial support for families, whether they're single parents or traditional families when financial hard times hit, because that's a reality in any generation and it has to be accounted for.
Okay. All right. So some more social safety nets. Kaola and Victor, I think you guys had something to go.
Yeah. What I'll add to that is, the government should promote more. Yeah, the government should collaborate with more of the mainstream media to promote more traditional family values on TV, including advertisement as well. That's what I'll add to that.
Okay. So more of seeing it on the tube, so to speak, more on the social media. Okay. All right.
Promote more conventional, more traditional lifestyle, family lifestyle than hey Matilda than the Kardashians. You know.
Okay.
If you want to use that word.
All right. All right.
Just to jump in there quickly, Nelson, what Carla's saying I agree with. The only thing I see an issue with is I always said, like, when a woman has a child, even if you're in a career job, you should be encouraged to stay home. The government gives you gives you a lump sum money for staying home, equivalent to your wage or 80% of your wage, just for the first furlough system, just for the first 2 years. The only problem would be, and no disrespect to council estate mums, but you're going to get some trends of women who just constantly stay pregnant, because they want that lump sum all the time. Do you see what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword. One sense you could be really good, another sense someone can take advantage of the system. But I do love council estate mums, by the way, just to let you know.
Okay, and we had a little bit of bad connection. All right, over to you, Kaola.
Yes, I just want to add to what Simon is saying about giving birth and children, because if we have more and more low birth rates, it's a sign for a cultural decline and a society decline as well. So we need to pay attention to that, because if we don't promote the family structure, if we don't promote the traditional structure, the birth rates are going down, and the culture also is going down and decline. Back to you, Nelson.
Okay, so we've got some, and Matilda.
Well, for you, Kaula, I mean, having a child is very expensive. I mean, lots of times people don't want to have more children because it costs a lot. I'm just bringing this.
They pay you in France when you get when you have a baby. They pay you.
Maybe I should come to France.
Okay.
Get
All right.
Yeah,
So,
money.
Matilda, I agree with that. Having lots of kids is quite expensive. If you are going on holidays and you're buying a package, 2 kids, two adults, you get a certain price. But immediately add the third child, whoa!
okay. Okay,
Yeah,
guys. So it looks like we're talking about the nuts and bolts here. Just a couple of things. I'll throw something in. Remember, all of these extra benefits that people are talking about, it says just taxes. Somebody's got to pay for this. Just remember, and everybody talks about their rights. We got responsibilities that come along with each and every right. So maybe there could be more tax incentives for savings, more financial literacy incentives for people to have an incentive to save more. Those things might be kind of helpful. Okay, we're going to kind of wrap up here. Some personal perceptions here, personal perceptions actually. But before we go to that, now let's go to that personal perceptions. What do you prefer? And for the audience, what do you prefer? A traditional family or not, and why? So audience guys, you guys start typing away. What do y'all prefer? This is our wrap-up question. Which do you prefer, traditional family or not, and why? Matilda, you're up. I guess Kaola's up second. She's got that gigantic smile on her face. Carla's up third. Yeah, she's scratching her neck. That's the sign, followed by Victor and Simon. All right.
I like both. I like combination of both. I think both of them are very important. So if I'm building a family, I like to choose both of them in my family. I want a piece from
Okay.
here, a piece from there, and
So Matilda, you want a blended traditional family. We got a new definition, the blended traditional family. Matilda, we're going to
blended
have a whole
traditional
podcast.
and modern family.
We're going to have a whole podcast episode on that. Kaola, and why?
Well, I think traditional family, as I said, is the golden standard, and I think a lot of women wants to have children and wants to be supported by men. And what I wanted to say is, I mean, we are going through this evolving society and an individualistic way of thinking, and I think that we need more and more to see this family traditional coming in. Back to you, Nelson.
Okay, we had Carla. Which do you prefer?
The traditional family. And I say that because I've been a single parent. I was a teen parent and I had to put myself back to school, raise 2 daughters, and hold down a full-time job. And it was really difficult, really, really difficult. It's as hard as they make it look on those teen mom shows. It's even worse sometimes. It's very, very difficult to be a single parent. And it's very difficult to succeed in raising a child without a father in the household. And it doesn't matter how glamorous they make it look. It doesn't matter how many successful examples or how many celebrities come forward and say, my mom was a single mom and she did a great job. There's a lot of baggage there, and there's a lot of distress, and there are a lot of hard days. And the impacts on the children can be seen right into their adult life. And that doesn't mean there are not successful single moms. There absolutely are. And my children would argue with me and say, but you did a great job, mom. But the stress and the problems that I went through as a single mom, there's no way that anyone could ever convince me that a traditional family is not the gold standard. Paula, I'm always going to use that. It's the gold standard.
Okay, Victor.
Yeah, you know where I stand, but I'll just reiterate. the gold standard. That is the diamond standard. Because I love my African traditional family. And why? Because the experience is just there. The support is just there. When you are in, you are in. They say, oh, the word when they say welcome to the family, it is welcome to the family. So you've got from this side, you've got from that side. And sometimes as a man with 3 kids, I don't know it all. I wish my dad was around to like, oi, how do you manage 51? You get? So I wish I could ask him that question. I'm struggling with 3. So that is like the gold standard. Traditional family for me, anytime, any day.
Oh,
Simon.
and Victor, widows are taken care of too. That's the interesting part in your
You said?
culture.
Okay.
Okay, I'm traditional. I'm traditional because of my personal experience. My experience is like Carla, but obviously I'm not a single mum. And also, my main thing is the world was built. We are today where we are because it's been built on traditional families. That's been the gold standard since time began. So these people who think they can suddenly change it to improve it, they're paddling in the circles. It's worked. If it's not broken, don't try and fix it. There's nothing wrong. And as traditionals, male and female, we both bring something to the party. So as long as, we're both on the same page and heading in the same way, we'll carry on developing the world in a wonderful way we have. Thank you, Nelson.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for that. We've got a comment coming in from Sasha Serge. Matilda?
I think there was another one that is not written. Okay. Sasha Serge Pakayan is saying, I prefer traditional family, but with a modern evolution. Oh, very nice, Sasha. Because you need boundaries, but at the same time, you need the choice to feel happy in life. I agree with that. And Sasha Serge Pakayan is saying, I think what was Victor saying after that. So that's why I want to do a traditional family with Victor. It's a joke, obviously. And Anders Cardell is saying, if a traditional relationship works, then perfect. Yes. And then we have our new audience, Shalma Mwaura. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. The gold standard for
Let's just say it's moi.
Moi traditional family. I have taken care of my 4 kids with jobs in between, but mostly just being there to raise them personally is rewarding. Of course, has its challenges, but at the end, rewarding. Thank you, Shelma.
Okay.
And
And
seems like I got her name right. Bravo, Matilda.
and Matilda, you got another comment from her?
Yes, she said you got it right. It was about her name, pronouncing her
Okay.
name.
Okay, so yes, most definitely, and I'll throw in my 2 cents. I also prefer a traditional family, but a big thing, and we kind of talked around it, is the ethics involved to be able to stay in. Very important to have a certain set of values that you can kind of repel the external influences. Of external influences say, hey, let's go rob a bank, and that's cool. That doesn't mean you should go rob a bank because it's cool. So that's kind of it for me. So we are going to wrap up. Matilda, we've got one more comment, and then we're going to go over to Kaola for a wrap up.
I think Anders Cardell is answering to Kaola's comment. He's saying, I cannot agree with the generalization through gold standard. Doesn't say anything about the relationship between the parents. I agree with Anders Cardell.
Okay. All right. So we're going to wrap up here just right quick. One, we are not marriage counselors, relationship counselors, plenty of good books out there. We're probably going to review some on Podcasters Unleashed. We might even have the authors on here, do a group interview with them. So, we're gonna do a wrap up, and then everybody's going to reintroduce their show. Carla, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'd like to use this comment from Anders. Anders, you're on fire today, and we love your comment. And this comment is really spot on. He picks up on the fact that just having that traditional family is not a gold standard. So yes, absolutely, Anders. What you need when you're having that traditional family, the setup may be the gold standard. Why would the setup be the gold standard? Because the child gets to have the advantage of having a mother and a father in the same home, taking care of all of their holistic needs. However, what Anders is pointing out there is the importance of that relationship being a quality relationship. And that's where the responsibility comes in. It's not about rights. Rights are done. When you have a baby, it's about the baby's rights. When you're building a family, it's about the children's rights. And they're relying on the parents to make sure that their needs are met. And so it's the responsibility of you, whether you're in a traditional family or not, to make sure that your child's needs are met and to make sure that whatever family you have is productive and it contributes something positive to your life, but also to the wider society. Back to you, Nelson.
Okay, and that really much says it right there. Not just the facade, but what's inside of that relationship to make it tick. What's inside of that to make it tick. And we got a big thumbs up right there from Anders Cardell. Okay, folks, we're going to go across right here, wrap up. My co-host, Kaola, how can people reach you and your podcast?
They can reach me on all social media platforms and on Spotify, iTunes, and all other podcast platforms. Women in Stories podcast.
Okay.
Matilda?
Mine is everywhere as well. Coffee with Matilda, Journey to Self. It's on all the podcast platforms and also on YouTube and Facebook. Over to you, Victor.
Yeah, hi, I'm Victor Usio. You can check Diaspora Entrepreneurs Podcast, available on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Google Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, and all the rest. Over to you, Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon and Taxi Chronicles. We're on all popular platforms. Feel free to check us out. We post daily at 8 a.m. British time. Carla?
Yep, you can catch my podcast, Wonder and Wellbeing, which is all about kids and kids education on all good podcasting platforms.
And this is Nelson De Zambrano here, Podcasters Unleashed. You can follow me at Investing in America. I'm on Spotify and iTunes. And this month, we'll be launching our YouTube channel as well. I also want to remind all of our listeners, please hit subscribe and follow. It helps us out a lot. Use your index finger or the big thumb, hit subscribe and follow, and also hit the share button. We found out when we do our analytics, people listen to this over and over again when it's not on a live stream. So you guys can help us out a lot. Use your index button, hit subscribe, hit follow, hit share. Okay. All right, folks, everybody, this was a fantastic episode. Thank you very, very much. All right, guys.